Welcome, enthusiasts. This episode is brought to you by Salty Language, the sexiest podcast on the network. This time we're bringing you an interview with Ben Hindle. He's the founder of Double Smoke Software. And his game, Because Zombies, on iOS and on Android is going to be coming out very soon. Ben, he's a former employee of BioWare, former Microsoft employee. He's worked with Kinect Games. He's also a former Canadian Winter Olympian. He's just a really good guy. We had a really nice chat with him. I couldn't believe how fast time went by. So here you go. Enjoy the interview with Ben Hindle.
What you're about to hear is part of the Podgods Network. If you have a problem with anything you hear, please write it in an email and go fuck yourself. Enjoy the show.
All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up.
Salty Language presents The Enthusiast.
So we're joined by Ben Hindle. He's the founder of Double Smoked Software. And hi, Ben. How's it going?
Hey, fellas. How's it going?
Great.
Can you hear me all right? I'm coming through?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I got you.
Yeah, can you hear us okay?
Yeah, actually. I don't even know where my microphone is on this computer, but yeah.
Well, that sounds good. I thought you had like a headset on, to be honest.
Yeah.
The magic of computers, yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, it's it's great to be here. Great to talk to you guys, and yeah, we're slowly, but surely reaching the end of the line of the old production process for my first game.
Yeah, Because Zombies.
Yeah, tonight it could be a huge night, and that's why I'm doing this podcast, because tonight might be the first time, or might be the time where I am actually submitting my game.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
like I was mentioning last week that I had to be working, like, that today would be a good day because I'd be working all week, but tonight is the day where I'm actually might be pressing the submit button.
Nice,
So,
nice.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you about that, actually, because I didn't know, like, because for podcasts, you know, when we submitted ours, I've heard various podcasts, you know, and stuff where they've got like, you know, 5-10 episodes, whatever, and we just did it after the first one.
Mm-hmm.
But because that's just kind of how we do things.
We kind of just dive headfirst.
We
into
really
it.
do. Yeah, we dive in headfirst into the pool and go, oh, that was cement. But I didn't know if the game process was different than that. I didn't know if there was like a, you know, kind of a step-by-step thing you had to do, or if you wait until you're done to submit.
Well, it depends. It depends on kind of what your sort of personal philosophy is. I'm sort of new to the mobile kind of world of the game development. I did a lot of games before, like things like I worked on Mass Effect 1 and you know the game at BioWare called Jade Empire.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love that game. I played the crap out of that.
Oh yeah, cool.
Oh,
and those games are kind of the old school where you worked on it and it had to be perfect before you released it. And so you put all this time and effort in, and you had to make sure that it was just sort of almost flawless by the end. Nowadays, people will release a lot more earlier and frequently. Like you see with, I don't know if you guys use Steam very much, but there's a lot of games which are called like early access, where you can just sort of buy games that aren't even finished, and the people will continually upload new versions and stuff like that, and you can kind of follow along as they work. And so there's another kind of new generation that's kind of used to submitting their stuff really early, and this idea of being done and then releasing is kind of something that they don't. That is kind of going away a little bit because a developer has so much easy access to their customers.
It almost
so
sounds
that's
like
something that I don't understand, though. Like I'm slowly getting to grips with that because that still doesn't really compute with me. I want to make it awesome and then release it. So.
Yeah, I was going to say you probably, you know, you fit from like our days of, you know, like you said, you know, we don't get games until, like when you mentioned the early access thing, I'm immediately going, wow, that could be really a kind of a fun concept for a game.
Well, it almost sounds like an ongoing beta test.
Right.
Yeah, it is. And so it's a way for developers to kind of get a little bit of money. I mean, they're selling their game, and it's a way for the public to kind of see how things develop, maybe have some feedback and stuff like that. But there's other drawbacks, but it is a way, it's like people are just sort of grappling with this idea that you can have super direct access to your customers. Like, you used to be able to have to go, like at BioWare, you'd have to take your game, give it to Microsoft. Microsoft would have to like package it up, put it on shelves, and then and do all this stuff. And it was like a couple of weeks before it would go from like the developer to the audience. Whereas now, like, you can press a button and everybody can get it in a day or so. So that totally changes the way it works. You don't need any middleman really, and so that's the thing that I'm sort of trying to become more comfortable with, is this idea of just putting stuff out there and kind of seeing if it works and seeing what people think before it's done.
Oh, what do you think about, like, the newest Assassin's Creed game came out and it had enormous bugs and they had to release patches immediately afterwards?
I saw that too. And same with the Halo. There's a big Halo controversy with the Halo Master Chief Collection or whatever.
Yep.
Right.
That seems like to me anyways. It seems like if you imagine yourself as like the executive producer of one of these games, and you're barreling out of control. You got like 300 people working on your project, and you're out of control, barreling towards. Maybe you're a couple of maybe weeks or months behind, but Christmas is coming. And people are like, look, Christmas is coming. You are not going to miss Christmas. Get this thing out. And I can see them going, okay, well, let's to me, it's fairly understandable. Like, you fix a lot of the biggest bugs you can, and then you can maybe put out patches and stuff like that. But the whatever you do to your fans or however disappointed people would be by getting it with a little bit of bugs, I don't think it's anywhere near as compared to if you completely miss Christmas.
Oh, yeah, I totally agree with you. Yeah.
So
because there's just some games that have to be, the November releases or early December releases. Yeah.
Be lots of unhappy kids.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yep.
Oh, totally. So I can see, like, that's a real tough spot to be in. But again, like the same thing with the mobile games. If you have so much early access to your customers, then it's super easy to sort of go like, okay, well, we'll patch it and this and that, and maybe you go, well, the people that are really going to be really affected by these bugs, maybe that's only 5% of the customers. So, obviously that 5% is still a big number, and those people are still like not happy. But again, it's the same sort of thing. It's like, what's your boss, the CEO of the company, going to say if you go, hey, I botched Christmas because I didn't want to have any bugs? Then you'll be
probably looking for a new job.
Yeah. You're like, I swear, January 17th though, this game's hitting shelves, and he's like, no one cares.
Just in time for St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, he's like, all the money's spent by then. What do you? Yeah, I mean, I know it's different in video games, because there's always money for.
Yeah. The other thing that happens is they because they have the thing in Christmas, like the Christmas time kind of planned, all the marketing stuff is already, like, people have bought commercials, people have purchased all sorts of stuff. There's commercials being made, and who knows what, maybe they're related to that time period even. And so if you don't release it, then you're like, well, you just set up millions of dollars on fire.
Sure, and that's each step of that sets millions of dollars on fire, because you lose your potential profit, and then you've wasted all those man hours, and it's I can imagine where heads would have to roll, and
so
and
obviously
we've seen
it's bad,
it.
and nobody wants it to happen, but like if you try to manage like some team of like 500 people and try to predict how things are going to work, like, it's really hard to think, like, especially when features just have to kind of be right, like whatever that means, which you can only tell maybe when you got the controller in your hand and you're actually playing it.
Right.
It's so hard, like, to sort of say, like, well, this quality is good, but now we're behind, and and so it's really difficult.
Yeah, I imagine so. Now, what is like you were talking about the early level of release on this versus like Mass Effect or something like that? What is the beta test time on something on a mobile device versus a platformer?
It can be like on a mobile device, like sort of compared to something on like the Xbox.
Something like that.
Well, it all depends. Like sometimes there's games like that never even sort of get into the concept of like a released game. Like I think I remember I looked at Minecraft, and it was still beta or something. Like it wasn't ever like released. So some things they just never have this concept of like a game that's finished ever integrated into their process. Like they just never think of their project as ever being done.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then there's others where they have this distinct period, like like remember WoW, and WoW had a big beta time, and Destiny had a pretty big beta time and stuff like that.
Yeah,
right.
Destiny actually did alpha and beta testing.
Yeah,
which you don't see a ton of. Like you see beta and stuff, but the fact that they did both, and then they extended, I think, the beta testing a little bit.
Yeah,
not long enough.
No, I know I missed it. Yeah,
I got into the beta probably the last weekend. I stink.
I activated my code the day after it was. Yeah,
solid. Am I the only one? Yeah. Yeah, and even then, like when you look at how much Destiny's going to change over the next year, like could you ever? It's kind of weird. You don't end up thinking of it as a release, like it's. They have all the expansion packs and all the different things.
That's been, and I honestly, I have barely played the game, but I found it interesting listening to other people who have talk about how when it first came out, it was this, and then they played it, and now they're upset because it's been changed to this, and I'm like, I kind of think that's what I was kind of hoping for with a game like that. I was kind of hoping the game would evolve a little bit.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of what was being promised, was it wasn't a typical shooter,
Oh, yeah.
That it was really going to, be a different kind of game. I think they're kind of delivering on it. Again, I haven't played the game, so I can't speak on that, but I know a lot of people were upset, but a lot of the stuff that they seemed to be really upset on was I can't, mine for unique weapons or whatever,
Right.
Okay.
And I'm like, really? Just because you can't sit around and get, all the cool stuff? I don't know.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember with WoW, the same thing. Like, there'd be times where you'd be in a little sweet spot where your character was overpowered compared to other things, or one ability of yours was overpowered, and you had this window of a certain amount of time, and you were like,
"Yep,
this is the best game ever because I'm just kicking ass."
Yeah, you're right.
And then a patch would come out, and you'd be the weakest, and you'd be like, "Okay,
so
I hate this game."
Right? Yeah, because they'd go, "Hey, people are exploiting this. We're going to nerf it a little bit so that if nothing else, so the game's not stale."
Yeah. Oh yeah, I didn't mind that. Like I thought that was pretty good.
I like that idea. That's why I was like, when I've heard some people gripe about Destiny, it's actually made me go, I think I might like this game more than I mean, don't get me wrong, I had pretty high expectations from it. I just haven't had the ability to get it. So
Yeah, it's tough. I played a little bit. I bought it. I mean, I have very little time to actually play games now. It's kind of weird, but I played it a little bit, and yeah, it seems pretty good. I'm more of a solo. Like I like to solo a lot. Like I don't. Obviously, if you have a lot to do, it's pretty hard to sign up for some raid or some kind of group thing where it's going to take like 3 hours. So, so you end up soloing a lot, and that's been pretty fun. Maybe a little bit repetitive. I think probably the raid stuff and the quests and stuff like that's probably the better content.
That's what that's definitely what I've heard from people.
Yeah. Like, I've gone back to the same place on different missions about 2 or 3 times now. And, I'm ready for something else.
Yeah, I think I'm like you. Is that I typically would be just the way I am about playing games is, unless it's like me and Tony playing for the most part, I just kind of would just go off on my own.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, who has time to plan for a raid? Just hop on real quick and play like 45 minutes or something and hop off.
Yeah.
Right.
Or back in the World of Warcraft days, somebody would be getting really mad at me all the time because I wasn't doing something right. Like if I'd get into this group, I wasn't like the best player, so I wouldn't heal somebody at the right time, or I wouldn't do something at the right time. Then everybody would be mad at me, and
that's the main reason I don't play groups much, because I'm generally one of the weaker players. I own it. Yeah. You don't want me on your Halo team, trust me.
I'd get into watching somebody else, and I'd be really into what they're doing, and I'd all of a sudden just be standing there doing nothing and stuff like that.
That's funny. Well, it's that's one of the things that's great about a lot of the mobile games is so many of them you can pick them up and put them down. Yeah. And that's one of the things, like, because at first, like, when the mobile, like games really started showing up on, and by mobile devices, I'm meaning phones and tablets now. I'm not meaning like, Game Boys and DS and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah.
But at first I was like, and then as they got a little better and stuff, and I'm like, all right, I'll sit down, like you're at a doctor's waiting room or something. And
it's perfect. Yeah. I've sat around and killed my battery and I didn't realize.
Yeah,
it,
exactly. Yeah. But it's nice. You can sit down for 15 minutes, catch a game, or play a little bit, and then pick it back up, and you don't have to worry about the 3-hour raids and
Well, every time I look over my wife, she's playing Drop 7 for months. She's been playing that.
Yeah, I always thought of it as and I don't know where I heard this. Maybe I heard it somewhere, or read it in somebody's article or something. But it was like designing your game for somebody who's on the toilet playing.
Yeah,
because
really,
how much time do you have? What are you doing? Like, can you get in? Can you get out? And can you have some fun in that amount of time?
I'll tell you what. I honestly think if I'm doing anything in the entertainment industry, I'm probably almost going to start having that mentality if I didn't already.
Yeah,
because
shorter podcasts.
No. I said entertainment.
Oh,
no, no. Because for that reason though, it's the clip that's playing through my mind is the one from Basketball. When he Denzel. I don't know if you're familiar with it, Ben, or not, but there's a clip in the thing where the guy's talking about how people's attention spans can be measured in nanoseconds.
Yeah.
And as he's telling this to this guy, the one guy's just like staring off in the distance like a bird in a tree, basically, in the matter of seconds, And
I found myself like on YouTube. Have you done this where you find yourself on YouTube going, like, maybe there's a 2-minute video and you're like skipping to the middle because you're like, oh, what is this long? It's a 2-minute video.
Yeah. Well, it's like I was having this conversation with a friend of my sister's. Because he was trying to get something to load, like, on Facebook, and he was getting frustrated. And I'm like, I remember when it would take, like, an hour and a half just to load on a computer.
Right.
Yeah.
Now we have the whole internet in a phone, and we're mad as hell if we don't get exactly what we want in, like, 1 second.
Yeah.
You have no idea how upset I get when my GIF files don't load quick.
Right?
I guess it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's a 6-second loop.
Like, this phone's a piece of junk, and...
Well, that's true.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. I remember. I mean, if anybody remembers the dial-up days,
horrifying.
It's amazing how fast you forget them because I'm the same way. Because like the size of my laptop now is so small. It's much more powerful than my desktop. The internet speeds they're wireless and they're way faster than they've ever been, and so I can just take this thing anywhere around the house and it's like magic.
Yeah.
But if something hangs or something doesn't work, you're just like, this is, you're ready to throw up.
Yeah,
exactly.
What up, pile of... Yeah, exactly. And it's really one of the most fascinating things that's ever been created. And, we're so, like, I just want to throw it at the wall,
Yeah. Or you see somebody with, like, a phone that's, like, a year old, and you're like, what are you doing with that thing?
Yeah.
You should see my phone.
That thing's a brick.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, it's amazing to me at times, when you see that, you just picture somebody, and like the polio vaccine was invented, and it's like, this doesn't work quick enough.
Exactly.
Tipping the table over.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's weird. And it's only going to get worse. Like, what's going to happen when, in 10 years? Like, what is all this technology going to do to us?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what, like, I've had conversations with my mom, and she's like, I can't imagine, or she's like, it's so hard to, look back and picture where technology's gone in her life, and I'm like, not even in just your life. I'm like, not even in just my life. I'm like, go 10 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And look where we were 10 years ago, and look where we are now with things. And it's mind-blowing, the leaps, And again, it's just going to keep getting quicker and quicker and quicker, and our demand for, eventually we're just going to have zero, like, attention spans. It's just going to be completely shot.
Yeah. Well, it'll be.
I'm sorry, what were you saying?
You have like cords jacked into your brain.
I was just going to say it's going to be Johnny Mnemonic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the Matrix.
Yeah, or the Matrix. Either way.
Did you guys ever
Keanu.
read anything from Ray Kurzweil? Sort of the the futurist.
With the what's it, Transcendence or whatever, right?
Yeah,
Is that his documentary?
And I watched this, one thing, and just the one quote kind of struck me was that he said that eventually we won't be, you won't be transmitting sort of anything converted into language, you'll just be exchanging actual thoughts.
Yeah.
Right.
So, like, you know how right now, basically everything's got to be converted into English or something, and then you decode it back and then it makes a thought. But who knows what the thought is? Maybe you misunderstood it, or maybe you didn't quite get it, or whatever, and it creates misunderstandings, and human beings then, start wars or something. And then, but now you can just, eventually you'll be able to just exchange the actual thought. And then,
I want to say that it wasn't that long ago I read something that they were basically on the cusp of that, but it was like what they had done to this point was between like, an English-speaking person to another English-speaking person.
Yeah.
Like via the internet, basically, without any actual conversation, where there was just, brain-to-brain kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. And they were like, the next step is figuring out how to do this without language being a barrier.
Language barrier.
Yep. Yeah. That's crazy.
I was like, exactly. That was the first thing. I'm like, I don't know if I like this stuff.
It's hard to wrap your head around a little.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah. Literally.
Yeah.
Right? Well, so we've yammered about various games here, but, why don't you tell us about your game, Because Zombies, for a little bit here? And
so it's my first, it's the company's first mobile game, and I was really inspired by some of the first mobile games that I ever played, like Plants vs. Zombies. It's not a mobile game, but I really liked it, which was Orcs Must Die.
That sounds really familiar.
Yeah, it's sort of it's the same. It's sort of zombie tower defense, except for orcs, I guess.
Okay.
But it's the same sort of thing where you're placing traps. And, same with Plants vs. Zombies, where you're placing down traps and plants and different things, and you're sort of being able to work really creatively to come up with kind of fun ways to kill the zombies. And so I wanted to make a game very similar to that, but also see if I could kind of intertwine a little more story, a little more of a journey for a player. And, zombies are really great for having something that's kind of fun and kind of no one really feels bad about killing a zombie.
Right.
It's very approachable and easy. Like, if someone blows a zombie's head off, people just have a good laugh, and no one thinks it's bad. No one feels sorry for a zombie.
Not yet,
yeah.
Not until I get my union started here soon.
Yeah. So I set about to just make that exact game, make the exact game that I actually wanted to play myself. And I gotta say, it's pretty close to what I wanted to make. And the weird thing was, this has been going on for so long. Like, I've been working on it pretty much full time for the past year.
Yeah,
it's been bouncing around in my head for even longer. And so it's kind of surreal and kind of strange, the idea that it may be done. Like, it may be ready for people to play. Like, that's sort of a really weird thing to think about, but and exciting. But it's getting there. And so.
I'm guessing just by the way you're talking, it's a solo operation for you. You're doing this all by yourself?
Yes, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so all sorts of programming, art, and all sorts of stuff. And, it just shows how good the tools have gotten that this is even possible. I'm not actually, I do all right, as far as how productive I can be, but it's kind of a testament to how good the tools are. And how easy, how easy it is to do certain things. Like, if you think back to the Jade Empire days, it was so hard to do so many things, and the devices even themselves weren't that powerful. And now it's crazy. The Xbox, the very first Xbox, I remember we would be sitting around just really pulling our hair out to try to save a couple hundred kilobytes because we only had 64 megs of RAM.
Yeah.
Now my phone's got a gig, and nobody even thinks about that stuff anymore. So it's really crazy. But so it's kind of a family story. It's a father. The story, guess what? It's a father trying to save his daughter by going through the zombie apocalyptic sort of scenario and going through and playing the game, and you get to the end and you get to sort of complete the story that way. Or maybe you don't complete the story that way. We'll have to see. Mm-hmm. And but it's that sort of thing where you're kind of designing, or it's sort of bite-sized kind of bits of gameplay. You can get through one of the levels in about maybe, or at least attempt one, but you can get through in about maybe 5 minutes or less. And,
Right.
and so there's about 50 levels. And so, and by the end it gets really, really hard. But it's sort of a nice build up to that and stuff. But yeah, it's sort of that way where like my wife and I sometimes will sit and play, and we'll just sort of give it back and forth, and I'll try a level, she'll try a level, I'll get stuck, and then she'll try it, she'll get me out of it, and stuff like that. So it's been good.
That's cool.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Now, is it something? I'm assuming a solo play game.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. Like this is something that maybe I'm going to be adding in the future, is maybe some kind of multiplayer. But currently, yeah, it's your classic single player video game, kind of sort of linear narrative. Not a lot of it's not a sandbox of any kind or anything like that. But and there's no in-app purchases or anything like that. It's pretty much just pay some money and then play a game sort of thing. So it's not, if people are really turned off, like I am anyways, of constantly being asked, like, hey, do you want to buy something while you're playing?
Yeah.
I kind of explicitly tried to avoid that. So you pay $1.99, and then you play it as much as you want, and then no one will ever ask you for money.
Yeah, and
amen for that.
Yeah, I'm a much bigger fan of that model. I seriously, I'd rather just hand somebody $2 up front than have them try to nickel and dime me later.
You're out of lives? Do you want 3 more?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Dude, not even, I played the Marvel Puzzle Quest game with an ungodly, obsession. And that game has so many, your characters get injured, and you have to wait X amount of time for them to heal before you can play again.
Yeah.
And you only have so many roster spots. Well, you can buy more roster spots, and I'm just like, nope. Yeah. It's like, well, I guess I'm done playing for tonight. Put it away.
Yeah. And so it enables them to say, well, you can finish the game without spending any money, except for it's going to take you a year and a half.
Yeah.
So you have to wait. Yeah.
And it will, because I'm not spending any money.
Yeah. I did play, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of a game called Infinity Blade on the iPad. iPad.
I've seen it in the App Store, but I've never played it.
Yeah, I think it's the same here, yeah.
Yeah.
That was the first game where I actually, I started to see the power of that, where I did spend, an embarrassing amount of money on that game.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because that was sort of, it kind of catches you in a weird spot. I was traveling, and you kind of reach a point where you're like, you know what, I'm tired of waiting for that sword. I want the sword now. And so you end up going for the sword, and but then you start to realize that it's not over. Like that sword's just going to wear out, and you're going to have to do it again. And then you start to feel like, wow,
that sword is a metaphor. It is what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're just going to wear out at some point. Like, I need a new sword.
I need that fix again.
That's only $1. All right, man, fine.
Well, I think Candy Crush. That's the infamous one for a lot of people.
South Park did a full-on episode about Candy Crush, I believe it was.
Yeah. Yeah, and so there's, some people love those, and the business model's really, really, attractive. People really like it. Like, if you look at the statistics, it's kind of scary how many people, even on, it's kind of weird in today's day and age, but how many people don't even have credit cards sort of hooked up to their phone. So if you put your game up, for a certain amount of money, like I have, there's a huge number of people that are just never going to be able to even consider buying it because they don't have any sort of payment possibilities on their phones at all. Like teenagers or people that don't hook up to iTunes or anything like that.
Yeah. And
so free games are perfect. Like everybody can play them, so they get downloaded a lot more.
Huh.
Right.
That's interesting though. So you kind of have to. So along with your platform and all this other stuff, you also have to choose your. I can't think what it's called now. Jeez.
Your sort of monetization strategy.
Yeah. I had another term for it, but that's close enough. That's It's exactly what I was meaning, though.
And that is a science. Like that is a science.
Like I would assume, yeah.
The whole idea of all these games, Candy Crush and all these, they're pulling so much data out of the games as well as to what are you doing? Where are you stuck? What do you like to do? And so they're really, really able to make all sorts of decisions as the game progresses as to what are the barriers
man.
to people spending more money and that kind of thing.
I'm just-
and really smooth them out as much as possible.
I'm just picturing you're playing a game like Uncharted or something like that, and you get to a point where there's some puzzle or some whatever, and you're just like, I just can't beat this, and the thing pops up and goes, would you like to skip this for $1.99?
Exactly.
Oh,
yeah.
jeez. Probably coming.
Right? And at some point somebody's gonna go, yes, I would.
Well, because what?
Forget
didn't
that I've already
Nintendo-
spent $60 on this game.
Didn't Nintendo have? I mean, not for pay, but had
Yes.
in one of their Mario games, you could basically set the controller down, Mario would do his thing.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
And the whole point behind that was supposed to be because of how frustrating it can get. What was funny is the way that they approach it to you, or they present it to you, is that it's a little condescending, because it's almost like hey, you're really terrible at this game, would you like me to...
Yeah. Well, that's sort of the whole side. I mean, the fact that it's so casual now, like with phones and stuff, it's such a huge group of people now, and there's so few of those people would probably identify as gamers.
Right.
That it's really hard. So, like, how do you get these people to feel comfortable? And if you put a game that maybe we're used to, where you might have to die a few times to learn something and stuff like that, that might turn off a lot of people.
Sure.
And so there has to be a lot of stuff that, different layers and stuff like that. I've tried to do a little bit of that, where the game itself is kind of not really, maybe the first half of the game isn't that hard, but then you layer in things like how do you, getting all like your 3 stars for the level, and you try to make that maybe more difficult.
Sure.
So the harder core player is going to go, okay, well, I'm going to sit and play and I'm going to try to get this. But then, like my mom is going to go, well, I made it. I don't care about those stars.
And a
Next
perfect
level.
example is that's the difference right there between Tony and I, is that he's going to spend weeks probably getting those 3 stars.
Yeah.
I'm going to go, 2's good enough.
I was very much a Ghosts and Goblins and Battletoads player.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Don't get me
Those
wrong,
hardcore games.
I'll try really hard to get the stars, but at some point I'm just going to go, I'm done. And I'll just
I've
move
seen
on.
enough.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm deleting this.
Yeah, so that's the science of it. It's getting more and more complex, and because you're uploading so much more data to the developer knows has a much better handle on why you don't like the game and that kind of thing.
Which is amazing to me, because it's one of those things where, I've never really wanted to give people data for free, because I know that this kind of thing exists and that it's so valuable to developers and such.
Right.
Yeah.
And it isn't that I begrudge them trying to make a better game or anything, obviously. It's just, I'm just kind of like, it's like I want something for that.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I know
Well,
how
I think-
valuable data is,
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And maybe they would. Maybe that's why they don't feel so bad about it being free either. Like where,
Right.
So they're yeah. But then I'm not sure. It's interesting, the statistics too. I haven't looked too much, but the statistics of like what the pay kind of sort of distribution is. Like, is everybody paying $3, or are a small group of people paying $1,000, or that kind of thing? Like,
Yeah.
I think that's sort of an interesting element as well. Where I'm not so sure that. I think the group that actually spends money on a regular basis actually isn't that large.
Right. I would imagine it's not. I want to say that I read something a little bit about that a year or so ago. I think one of the game magazines or something, I think, actually had a little bit about that, because of how much people gripe about the in-app purchases, and not just in-app purchases, in-game purchases even.
Right.
Because a lot of, the console games have done it. I think, I don't know who started it, but I remember when EA first introduced it in, was it one of the Battlefield games or something, where they had certain weapons that you could buy, and people were furious, because it's like, look, I can't afford to buy these weapons.
Yeah.
Now these
Instead
jerks
of,
are going to run
leveling
around.
up and getting them the
Yeah.
proper way or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I was
Yeah, but
kind
I
of...
can see that being, like you're a middle-aged man with a job. Now you can start owning all the
Yeah. See, that's
all
the...
teenagers.
That's the way nobody looked at it, though. Everybody was looking the other, like, oh, I'm just, poor person. I can't afford to buy, this $5 weapons pack or whatever. And
Like, perfect.
yeah,
Yeah, my golden sniper rifle.
yeah,
Excellent.
sweet. You just made my KD ratio even better.
Like, I remember there was a time in Battlefield 1942 where it was almost unplayable because people would just shoot you on your own teammates would shoot you on the aircraft carrier all the time, and they're just kids sort of trolling you and stuff like that. But it would just that would be a situation where as somebody that can only play for a little while, you'd want to be able to just sort of take care of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I could see that.
And I've had that. I play a little GTA online every so often, and I've got up and walked away and come back, and people are just spawn killing me, and you can't get away from them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's horrifying.
Yeah, and that's it's
As
funny
a middle-aged man.
Well, in some games it's just terrible that the game that they didn't get out in front of that and create better spawn point.
Spawn to within a certain radius of where you die.
Yeah, or give you some sort of Halo, when you die and you come back, you've got I forgot how long of a time you have that shield that basically you're nearly unkillable for like 10 seconds or something like that. Mm-hmm. At least give somebody so they can run for a second and at least have a chance to pull their own gun. Okay, fine. Right. Then if you kill me, I
think they've got trolling down to a science, though. They'll find a way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Oh, you're not kidding. Yeah, it's so funny how not funny, but it's like trolling is, especially in video games and stuff. It's very much a like in-game hacking almost of even though I know games have hacking within them, it's just just feels like people have just gone, how can we exploit every loophole in this to where we get everything basically with but we're actually playing the game.
Kinda.
Yeah, there was one way in Counter-Strike where I see people just getting livid because people would just stop in the door, and they could in a doorway, you couldn't pass somebody. Like they didn't have that sort of thing where you could walk through another character. So somebody would just stop, and there'd be all these people in chat going, "Move, please, move."
Oh man.
Yeah. That's just a dirty play.
I can't imagine how frustrating that would be. Jeez. Well, I can, but whoa.
Yeah.
Yikes.
So I got to ask, what got you into game development?
Jeez, I don't know. Let's see. I was in sports for quite a while, and then I eventually had to stop. So I had to retire. But I think right before I did, I bought myself a computer. This is maybe like 1999 or 2000 or something like that.
Right.
And like I was doing all sorts of, I told myself I'm going to do only really professional things with this computer. I'm not going to do anything like play games or anything like that. I'm not going to be some...
That's only because dial-up and not high-speed existed.
Yeah. I'm not going to be some guy that plays games all the time. So I did a bit of word processing or something like that. But then when all that was done, I had nothing to do. And so I, put Quake on there.
Oh boy. Yeah.
And then I couldn't believe it. Like, cause I played Doom on my dad's like 486 in the early night. So I kind of was like, yeah, I get first person shooters, I get them, but this is and I was expecting kind of that software rendering look, that sort of the Doom rendering look.
Yeah.
And I'd never seen an actual 3D game before, like actually a rendered, textures on polygons kind of rendering. And when I saw that, it was like pure magic. Like I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe my eyes. Yeah. And so then I obviously played a lot and played just tons. Was very competitive about it, and played with friends and had a really good time. And then I started to get interested in, maybe then I noticed that they put an editor out so you could make your own levels.
Yep. Right.
And so I got really into that, and I was making all sorts of levels and trying to see what people liked and try to get people to play certain levels.
Yeah, I remember us like going on and looking for.
I had to retire. Sorry. Like I had to stop, and so then I that was the only thing I knew that I really enjoyed, and the one thing that I knew that if I could do that for a living, that'd be pretty awesome. And so I went for that. I went to school, just a little kind of rinky-dink kind of community college place, and just got into BioWare by kind of the skin of my teeth, and then just sort of tried to absorb as much as I could, and yeah.
Huh.
It's been the kind of job though where you do like 5% of your total knowledge in any kind of school, and then the rest you're just working a lot in the evenings and trying to learn and trying to keep up with things, because it's a kind of profession where your education is totally obsolete in like 5 years. So
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I it's not quite the same, but it's like I went to school for graphic design 12 years ago, and probably within 5 years of me graduating, a lot of what I knew was not relevant because so much of it had shifted to digital, like more like web-based design and stuff, whereas most of what I was taught was still for the printed, you know, magazines and flyers and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. To where it, like, now if you go, it's a whole different degree than it was, you know.
Yeah.
Totally different program. Yeah.
Right.
That's exactly the way it was. We were taking like hand-drawn animation at the same time and stuff.
Geez.
And
wow.
That was super neat, but not really. I mean, that's how different it was than what we deal with today. So
Right.
But
like,
it's been a huge, like I've had to, I mean, you basically have to retrain yourself. Like the huge shift from Xbox One to Xbox 360, or sorry, the first Xbox to Xbox 360 was huge. Like going from Jade Empire to Mass Effect, like technologically was like massive.
Oh, I bet.
And
Yeah.
And then then I worked at Microsoft and I worked on the Kinect, like the first Kinect launch. And that was big because that was sort of going from hardcore game to, casual, kind of trying to make games for everybody and trying to wrap your head around how to make a Kinect kind of fun and that kind of thing, and dealing with the problems with the Kinect and that. And now sort of switching over to mobile has been a whole other thing, which is, and kind of getting that whole, the whole idea of, really small teams and, being on the smallest team possible and that kind of thing.
Right.
Huh. Yeah. Huh. I imagine that, like this kind of profession's got to be like, I know, you're probably like your core stuff, probably transitions to like the next platform you go to or whatever, but each time you do something, like you go from, like you were saying, like from console gaming to computers or to tablets or phones now, whichever, like each time it's a whole new like set to learn.
Yeah, a whole new skill set, tool set.
Yeah. And in certain cases you bring something good to it, like your experience helps, but in other ways it can be like an impediment. Like sometimes there's somebody that's 15 years old that has never seen anything but the tablet. Yeah. And so he's got this super perspective that you'll never have. Whereas I just look at everything like a console, like, this is just a flat Xbox.
Right,
where it's not necessarily, so it's, and sometimes it goes both ways, but, it's weird. It's a mind bender.
Well, I mean, what do you think, that console gaming will always be around, or is eventually just going to be straight mobile?
I don't know. It's hard to see. Like, when you think about it, like, Apple puts out an iPad every year, basically, that's pretty much the cost, if not a little bit more expensive than an Xbox.
Yeah.
And
right.
they put it out every year. And I don't know the sales figures, but I would bet that they sell a comparable, if not more, if not multiples more, than the Xbox. So you think, so if you're a company, what's it's got to be kind of risky to put out a product that probably takes like 5 years of development time to put out and really kind of engineer this thing. You've got to line up all these developers to make all this content for launches and all this kind of stuff, and none of it is backwards compatible. So or very little, anyways. Like,
right,
it's not nearly as compatible as iPad games are. Like, you could find something that is on the very first iPad and probably play it on the latest generation.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So it seems like that's a tough thing. Like, they'll have to transition if they're going to continue. I would think they would have to transition to something where they're not sort of doing a complete redo from scratch every time they put out a new one.
Yeah.
And because that's just like so much wasted work. Like, all those 360 games that everybody loves, there's got to be a way to just use all that stuff. Or same with PS3 and PS4. Like, it's got to be a way to make that stuff work.
And it's mind blowing how many. Excuse me, how that is a serious deal breaker for some people. That they just won't upgrade because they don't want to feel like they won't or can't play their favorite games anymore. It really stinks. I mean, it's I know a lot of the companies now are really in a lot of ways they want to go digital with everything.
Right.
You know, and it makes sense. You eliminate so much cost and headache and, you know, but it's at the same time you got, you know, I mean, I still have a PS3 because I don't want to give up a couple games that I have, you know.
Yeah.
If they were compatible to the PS4 that I have, I would no longer have a PS3.
Yeah.
Right.
So it'll be interesting with, like, it sounds like Microsoft is going to, I read one of their press releases, they're going to have Windows 10, and it will be on the Xbox, or some type of it will be running on the Xbox as well. So the platform will be completely, like, flat.
Okay.
And so that seems kind of interesting. Like, maybe they're addressing that kind of problem, because, I mean, if it's a Windows 10 machine, then you can put anything on it, and maybe it'll just be like another PC, and maybe that'll be pretty cool.
I kind of wonder if that's been Microsoft's game plan for a long time, and they just haven't quite been able to get it to work because their operating system hasn't quite caught on fire with the general public.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it could be. Like, they have so many different platforms that it seems like it makes like a no-brainer to get everything to work across all of them.
Well, not to mention, I mean, what better way to sell your tablets and your phones than if somehow
interconnected.
Like, look, you know, our friend, and I love playing Diablo also, but a friend of ours, a huge Diablo nut, he has a PS Vita that he uses pretty much only to play Diablo on, because you can pick your game up from the console, go to that, go wherever with that, come home and go right back to your console.
A friend of mine raves about that. That feature, and every time I hear about it, I'm like, I need to maybe go buy a PS4 and a Vita.
See, I have a PS4, and I'm kind of that way, yeah.
Well, although I heard a lot of game companies, aren't they kind of nixing that feature?
There's not a lot that do it, is the problem. There's a few of the sports games that do it, which the first part of it that a lot of people, you got to get over is that you still have to buy a copy of the game for both systems.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you don't, I mean, now, Sony, like I love playing the Sony baseball game, the MLB The Show, and what they've been doing is they offer a package where you get the game for the PS4 and the Vita for, I don't know, together it's like $10 or $15 off retail if you buy them together for this purpose, you know, and I was like, you know, that's smart, but that's still a lot of, I mean, you're still laying out the better part of $100 by the time you're done. Well, you are, because it's, you know, I think it's like $70 or $75 for the two games, or $80. I can't remember. It's still a lot of money.
To me, it just shows how attractive mobile is. Like, if I can play and not be restricted, it's really that's really an advantage. Like, it's really it feels strange. Like my TV's just over here where I play games on. When I do sit down to play, it has to be such an effort. Like, I have to go and sit in this one spot, and I have to use this one controller.
Yep.
And, you know, the batteries in the controller might not be, charged. And so it's just so much work. And, whereas, you know, you pick up your phone, you can just sort of do whatever you want and wherever you want. And that seems so natural.
Yeah.
Right.
It does. And I, you know, for consoles going forward, that might be the biggest problem for them, is how integrated into our lives our phones and tablets are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the other problem, is that so, like, all the console makers will make a call as to how fast they think their console needs to be. So they'll, you know, and we, you know, you look at the graphics and stuff like that, and everybody's really excited about that. But they've made a call that this is going to be good for like 5 years in the future, or however long. But I mean, if there's new tablets coming out every year,
right?
Then, I mean, how long is that going to take before before you're now behind, and you never want to be behind if you're a big box,
right?
You know?
Yeah.
So then, do you have to go through the whole process of making another console again, or like, it seems like it's sort of the model has some challenges.
Well, and again, if you tell me I'm going to lay out $600 or $500 on something, and it's either going to be a brand new tablet or it's going to be a brand new console, the tablet offers a whole lot that the console doesn't bring me.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and granted, they've each got their ups and downs, you know, but it's like, you know, if I'm paying that money, it's like, well, you know, I can do some work on this other one. I can dink around on the internet, which I'm not one of those people that is going to put, like, you know, a Facebook or a Twitter app on my PlayStation. I'm just probably never going to be that guy.
I want to hear about your trophies, Brian.
I know you do, but
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, totally.
But on the tablet, I just pick it up. You just whatever you need to do. If it right in the middle of a game, you're like, oh, you know what? I forgot to email. You just switch over and
Yep.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah. And they're also and like I was really surprised the other day. I just put it on my PC. I just put in a little like a calendar entry for something, and the number of devices in the house that went off when I actually needed a reminder was huge. Like they all sunk, my phones, my tablets, my everything. And you think like that's pretty crazy that that's possible. And
I have the same thing at my place with Apple stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except for the Xbox. The Xbox had no idea that thing was happening.
Right, and like you were saying though, but if they fix that and then if they were to make
everything.
it run 10, even if it's kind of like a tablet version of 10, to where it's maybe dumbed down a little bit, to where but if it syncs with everything, man, at some point if they can give you the opportunity to, even if it's on smaller games or apps or whatever, to where you could pick that, sit in that chair you're talking about and pick up your controller and play that on your Xbox. You could kind of pick it up and sit in your chair if you want, or play on your tablet when you're on the go. I think there's an attractiveness to that, and I really think that's what Microsoft was wanting to do with the Xbox One, and I think they kind of just missed the mark at the beginning. That they might be able to fix it, but I think they just shot wrong from the,
If I could play Gears of War at lunch, I would buy a Windows phone.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. If you could get the same experience, that would be that would be crazy.
Well, how great would it be with the phones, like you were saying? I mean, they can run an insane amount of stuff now.
Yeah.
If you could give me, say, well, we can give you back catalog, but it's pretty much only for your mobile devices.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's okay. Sure.
Yeah.
Now maybe I'm considering a Windows tablet instead of an iPad,
Well, I was thinking just the other day of buying, like, I was really close, and I'm always bad, like, of buying GTA 5 on the Xbox. But what always stops me is I kind of know what's going to happen. I'm going to play it for a little bit, and then something will happen, and then I'll stop playing for a while, and then I won't want to go back because it's been so long and all that kind of stuff. But what would push me over the edge is if I could play on my phone or play on my tablet, and then I'd be like, okay, well, I definitely know that I'm not going to miss out on this game.
Right.
So I'm for sure gonna pick it up. But I just know if I have to sit down in front of the TV to play, that it's kind of not gonna happen. Like I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
Well, and plus, like you were saying before we started recording, you got kids. You're not going to fire up GTA when the kids are running around.
Yeah,
if you have it on your
exactly.
phone, you might.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can hide it a little better than, or maybe, like we were talking earlier, you're...
Like, hold on, Daddy's beating up a prostitute.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'm always excited seeing the stuff with the tablets and the whole integration thing. It's like, it's there, it's not too far off, because, like Apple's doing it with all their devices now to where, like I can make phone calls to to iPhones off my computer now. I don't even have to use my phone. I can just use my computer and call somebody.
Yeah.
And they're starting to do that to where the devices are kind of blending together as far as what they can do. I have like full access to like all my like bookmarks and browser stuff. I can put all my stuff in the iCloud thing and have all my nudes leaked and
Yeah, exactly.
But but stuff like that, it's like, obviously there's scary aspects to it too, but
Yeah, it's weird. Like I didn't know when this started, but now, like I get even when I get phone calls on my phone, my laptop, iPad, and everything are all wanting me to answer the phone on each one of those. And so
it's like a
even
competition.
when I'm answering the phone, I'm like, just a second, and I'm trying to shut everything off because they're still ringing, and it's not. They haven't worked out all the kinks yet.
Right. Yep.
But yeah.
But it's it's beginning. You can definitely feel it. I'm very curious to see, because the consoles almost have to be a part of this, I think, because if they're not, with all the different ways you can get like smart TV and stuff delivered to you now, that aspect of them, like a PlayStation being a Blu-ray player, it's like, whatever, I can get a Blu-ray player for $50. Who cares?
It has Netflix on it.
Yeah, that has
YouTube
Netflix.
and...
Yeah, exactly. I have one sitting right here on my dresser. In fact, it was $50. It has all that stuff on it. So, you know, and it's a Sony. So it's not even like it's, store brand or something. It's a Sony one.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of, I think the consoles are almost hitting that adapt or die point.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, they need to. They need to I mean, it's like if you're buying a computer, which is essentially kind of what you're buying. Like you're buying a PC to be in your living room. They've got to come up with some other really cool uses for it that is that justify. One of those actually might be VR. Like I don't know if you guys have looked at any of the Oculus Rift stuff and that.
Right.
I've read about it. Yeah.
That might be something that can really, because they're. I mean, if it's VR, you want to see stuff that's realistic, and maybe they're powerful enough that they can make stuff that looks super awesome. And with VR, you don't want to walk around and do stuff. You want to just sit. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's a way they can kind of bring back the console or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I think so, because I wasn't one, like I always, like the idea of the Wii and the Kinect and stuff. I thought were they had their moments and stuff, but it wasn't something I was going to fall in love with.
Not everybody wants to hammer dance in their living room.
Exactly.
Well, that's the reason I did want it.
Each other in the face and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I almost spin kicked my daughter once. So.
Right. Listen, it allowed me to skank with other people in my living room. That's all. It's like having a punk concert right there in my house.
It was great.
Yeah.
Without the crowd surfing.
Although I mean, I really like with the Kinect. I love the voice activation aspect of it. It feels like I'm on the Enterprise or something.
I like the sign in, like the automatic signing in.
Right.
I always get caught with it, sort of like, okay, I want to watch a movie. Oh, I'm not signed in. Okay, let's get signed in, and okay, and now it's always going through this like 30-second process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, because again, we go back to what we were talking about earlier. That 30 seconds, you're like, oh, come on.
I want instant gratification.
This is unacceptable.
I should be past the credits by now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I could be using my hand to browse Netflix at this point.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, check it out. It's like the Force. Oh, man. All right, well, we're sitting here at about an hour, which was longer than...
That was a quick hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding.
So, apologies if we kept you from something. I didn't even...
Oh, it's all right. No,
lost
I
track
think
of things
everybody's... I think dinner's on upstairs. I should probably run.
Okay, fair enough. Do you want to...
Super good talking to you guys. Anytime you want me to come back, I'd love to come talk to you guys.
Excellent. Yeah,
absolutely. There was things I wanted to ask you that we didn't even get close to.
Yeah.
Yeah. This doesn't feel like a podcast or anything. This feels like a good chat.
That's what we're always shooting for.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, we're like, yeah, I've done this before. Where can people find all your stuff at?
So the best way to find out how things are going, and because things are still, like, nothing is actually in a store yet. I'm just at the point of submitting things. So the best thing you could probably do is follow me on Twitter, which I'm at Harold Balls, and or on Facebook you can go to facebook.com/BecauseZombiesGame, and you'll get all the updates and stuff like that if you like the page. But stuff's going to be going like. It should be out. I'm shooting for at least Android and Amazon stores before Christmas, and then Apple stuff as soon as I can. But I may miss Christmas because they kind of have some deadlines and stuff like that. And,
yeah.
Remember the executive that was like,
yep,
totally couldn't miss Christmas.
All right, when you're a one-man operation, are you firing yourself here? What's going on?
The guy that was like, going to lose his job if he missed Christmas.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm on Apple. I just may, but on it's Twitter and Facebook that I'll be posting like every 10 seconds on once it is out.
That's fair.
That's absolutely shameless plugging.
Until I can be sure that every follower has bought it, I'll be posting and harassing people. Yeah.
Be like, I'll stop harassing you when you all send me purchase receipts.
Exactly. Yeah. You'll have like a do not harass list.
We'll put your trailer up for your game on our site and link to your Twitter and whatnot.
Oh, yep. Cool. Yeah, that would be super helpful. And yeah, like I'm. So it's it'll be interesting to see how the whole thing turns out. But I think by the strength of the game, I think it'll be all right. But it's an adventure for sure.
Right on.
Very cool, man. Very cool.
Well, right on, guys. Thanks a lot for the opportunity.
Oh yeah, it was a great chat. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, definitely.
Yeah, I'll keep you posted, and if you ever need me to come back, just shoot me a message.
Excellent. Yeah, we
right.
definitely will, man. Thanks a lot.
Thanks very much, fellas.
Yep, thanks. See ya.
Bye.
All right. Well, that was Ben Hindle. Again, you can reach him on Twitter at Harold Balls.
And his company's site is doublesmoked.com.
Right. And he said, what was it? Facebook.com.
Because Zombies Game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To follow. Again, we'll have links with everything else we do.
Hey, it's Tony again. I hope you enjoyed the interview we had with Ben. We were originally going to plug this in as part of a regular show, but we didn't. So we didn't properly close the podcast off like we normally do. So I guess it's the one-man send-off. Always remember, have a beer, you'll be fine. And stay salty.
Hey listeners, this is Jedi from over at Geek Dig, the second sexiest podcast on the network, and proud Salty Language Patreon. These guys do a hell of a job, don't they? Well, go help them out. Not right now, you gotta finish listening to this episode, but as soon as you're done listening, here's what you do. Go to saltylanguage.com, scroll to the bottom of the page, and click the link that says, I want to be a supporter. From there, it's up to you. So, go back to listening. Remember, when it comes time to take over the world, make sure you're on the geek side.
You are now leading the world of Musings of a Geek podcast network. Stay geeky, my friends.